All right, everybody, welcome to episode number 160 of Pro NoCoders Office Hours. I'm your host, Tonya, and we're here with members Jay, Ben, and Thomas, and my Kim is here as well. We're going to get started in just a moment, but I'm going to try to remember all the things that I have to tell you this morning because there's a lot going on. First of all, you know we do office hours every day of the week, Monday through Friday, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And what it is we invite our members to come on our Zoom, which we broadcast live, but our members get to ask us any questions they want about Bubble. They can bring us their Bubble bugs, ask us for features that they're trying to build, whatever they want, and we try to get them answers. We can't promise the answers because nobody knows everything, but we do our best and we get it right most of the time. The next thing I have to tell you about is we had a fantastic live session yesterday with Eli. He came on and he taught us all about the new Flexbox editor and how to choose between different layouts when you're trying to work with the new Flexbox editor. So you can actually check out, he made a guide, which I thought was really cool. Does anybody else see that?
No, I did not see that.
I did.
Flex guide. So if you go to pronocoders.com/flex-guide, you can find a new Flexbox responsive editor guide that Eli made for us to help us choose which settings to use when we're building in the new responsive editor. Meanwhile, if you want to check out that live video, you can go to our channel on YouTube and it's up there and it should be better quality this time. I remembered to change the settings to high definition. But that's not all, folks. We got two more things coming. We've got another live session happening, and I haven't scheduled this one out. I'm going to do that right after office hours today. Justin is going to come on Wednesday evening, and he's going to build out an entire chat feature using the new responsive editor. So if you want to pay attention to that, it'll be going up in our channels a little later today, and you can click to set the reminder and make sure that you tune in for that. And finally, we are launching our vault. So if you are interested in being one of the first people to know about the vault, go to pronocoders.com/vault and sign up to be on the list. We're going to email you probably first thing on Friday morning, and you can be one of the first people to join our vault. Our vault is going to be like a lot of other vaults. It's going to have a lot of video content, but what we're aiming for is to answer your questions as quickly as possible and to reduce the amount of video that you have to watch in order to find your answers. An example of this is we're using Vimeo, and we're time stamping our videos very carefully so that you can find exactly what you're looking for in the video and you don't have to watch everything to get to the point. All right, so please do go to pronocoders.com/vault and sign up to get the launch notification. If you already belong to pronocoders.com, don't worry, you'll hear from us. So great, it's time to get started. I didn't do a survey around to see who has questions, but I'm just going to start with Jay and go from there.
Great, I do have questions today.
Awesome. You can feel to kick me off screen share anytime.
You got it. Okay, I'm having this really weird problem with these custom states. Can you guys see yet?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the problem. These are three basically identical repeating groups. I'm having the same problem in each one because I copied and pasted the second two. Can we tell yet? There we go. So you'll notice that this cursor does nothing, but in the third one, it does what it's supposed to. Same problem in every one of these repeating groups. And yet, I mean, so that alone is weird. And then also, there's an offset, if this is showing, then this should make it hide. And that's not working. And I've looked at it and looked at it. It's got to be either something simple or it's a bug. And I don't know what if I'm missing something? So here's the workflows. Here's just, they're all the same, but here's an example. So when there's the custom state, and then there's the value. Same, when the custom state is the value, then it's off. And then each one of these, repeating groups, the value is the parent group's, whatever that data type is. So that's platform, that's industry, and the other is product. What do you think of this?
Okay, so go to the, yeah, that button there. So there's no conditional on that, and there's no condition on the group that it's in that would hide it. Is it in a separate group or no?
Yeah, this is the group it's in.
That's the group it's in. Okay. And it's working on the third one, and you don't have any sort of like reverse repeating group thing on it, right?
No, it's absolutely vanilla.
And then, and that's a focus group. What is that?
No, it's just a regular old group.
Just a regular old group. And so when you click on the ellipsis, it's supposed to open up that group, right?
Yes.
And
you'll notice that when I click on that one, oh, never mind. I understand why that's happening. So yeah, it's just not doing its thing.
go to the other ones.
Over here, you mean?
Uh-huh.
Nothing happens.
And same on the second one.
Yep, they're all the same problem. Only the last cell works on each one. This one's only got 2 things. That one works, but this one, dead.
That's so weird. Anybody have any ideas for Jay? Maybe there's, yeah, it looks like a bug. But just to be sure, can you go back to the editor? And let's just hover around. Like, I just want to make sure there's no like group, invisible group that's like over those buttons. But then it wouldn't make sense why it would work on the top one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the last one only. That's so weird that it's, and everything else in the group is as it should be. This is all correct. Everything here is right, except for this one weird thing.
Yeah, that looks buggy to me. I can't explain that one. I don't know. So if you asked me how to make that happen, I would have a hard time making it happen. No, that's my trick to debugging. My trick to debugging is figuring out how I would make a bug happen if I wanted it to happen, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, this is why that might happen. But in this case, I can't think of a way that I would make that happen without putting like a condition on the ellipsis element, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say report that to Bubble.
Okay, I will do that. I hate doing that.
I know, but this is also, it's good to point out that this is, one of the reasons why they say that the responsive engine, the new one, is in beta, right?
Yeah,
So,
I'm also noticing some other little bits of weirdness, like these should all be loading. They loaded fine yesterday, and here we are. And if I reload it, I'll get most of them, but I won't get all of them.
I've got that same problem, Jay.
Are you?
Yeah.
Did you find a way around it?
No, I found it as of this morning. So
yeah, mine too. It was working fine yesterday, so maybe it's
Yeah.
something that they just changed. I'll let them know in the bug report. I've got 2 more things, so put me back at the back of the line.
okay.
Thanks.
You order. Let's see here. Next, I think was Ben. I think you were here before, or I can't remember if Thomas was here or Ben was here first. Whichever one was here. No questions. Okay, Ben, you're up.
I just got a quick one. So I'm resetting my app to get rid of, a lot of the custom states and send parameters like we discussed. But one of the issues that I keep having, and I've got 100 of them now because I've changed them all to parameters, is it's saying I need to send data, but I don't have any data to send.
Okay. Can you show me?
Yeah. So like this is essentially what's happening is I've got clicking on the menu and it's sending a URL parameter, but I don't need to send data. I just need to send it to this, which is what it's working. It's just sending me a bug, an issue saying I need to fill out data.
Yikes. Okay, so go to the app page element.
Yeah.
So click on the outside. Yeah. Good. Click
Where's it?
until the element comes up.
Oh, it's all of them. So it's
No,
anything
like click on the outside in the blank space outside of your editor space. Yeah, right there. Just double click. There you go. So page title, type of content is an event. So what it's
Oh, but
expecting you to send in is an event.
how do I get rid of that?
You just set it to empty.
Okay, cool.
There you go. That took
And that
care
clicked
of.
them all.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. So anytime you see that, just as a heads up, anytime you see that there's like a red arrow where the click is and it's like send data, you go to the thing that you're opening and you look and see what data type it is and you'll understand what it's asking for.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I wonder how that got set as an event because it wasn't. That's super weird. Anyway, one
Yep.
of those many mysteries.
there you go. That was a quick win. Woo-hoo.
Yay, quick wins.
All right.
Confetti.
Yep. Jordan, you're up. Jordan, are you here? He might have stepped away. Oh, there he is. Hi, Jordan. We can't hear you. I can see that your mic is not muted, but I can't hear you yet. Not quite yet.
Still no? No?
Now I can hear you. Yep.
Sweet, cool. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I don't really have a question. I was just thinking, you know how I was trying to set up the box integration?
Yes.
I was actually considering swapping and going for like Google Drive or Dropbox. Just because I was looking at some of the plugins and they seem to do a little bit more. The thing that I'm stuck at the moment was I couldn't get a direct download link from the zero code plugin. I think we talked about it in the past, but looking at the Google Drive one, it seems that it's got that and it's got all those functions.
Mhm.
So I was just wondering, has anyone else like been using the Google integration, the Google Drive one, or
I haven't. Has anyone else?
I think it's fairly new, isn't it, Jordan?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, cool. Okay. So that was next on my list, just to try and set that up. But
We can look at it if you want.
oh yeah, do you want to?
Sure.
Or do you want to go around everyone else first, or because will it take a while?
We'll just check it out and see what it's like.
Okay, sweet. Do you want me to do it, or do you want to do it?
I'm already doing it. It's
Oh,
the
you're
zero
doing it.
code one.
Ah, here we go. Which one are we looking at?
The free zero code one or the paid zero code one.
Click on the plugin page.
Okay. For which one? This one?
Maybe the paid one. The paid one. It should be better, shouldn't it? Scroll down. Keep going. Keep going, keep going. You see, that one doesn't have very good reviews, does it?
No.
Go back to the other ones.
This one?
Maybe that. What's that zero code one down the bottom? There's two.
Oh,
No.
this one. Okay.
So get files, upload a file, create a folder, give everyone permission, move the link, move. Update users permission, delete file, get file, add file, remove file, get image. Doesn't say download, does it?
No.
I'll just do a quick Google and have a look which one I was looking at.
Oh. Okay, well, yeah, if you want to let us know which one to try, we can try it a little later. All right, Jay, I think it's your turn.
Okay. Give me a second. I need to get back there. Okay. Okay, this is another super weird one. I'm getting these three identical errors.
Mhm.
It says the group, this group, it's not a possible option. I have no idea why it would do that. It's just a regular old group. There's nothing special about it. And it's not part of anything. It's just decorative.
So click on one of them on the errors. And it's not pulling up an error, like showing you where it is.
No, I don't see anything in any of the sections that it could be. It's mysterious. And they're all in this one pop-up. And it just doesn't make sense.
It's not possible. Yeah, that looks, I mean, I am loath to blame Bubble for everything, right? Like I don't typically, but this reminds me of a Bubble bug or two that I've seen in the past where something that you've already chosen is then made not a possible option. And it usually has to do with some sort of buggy Bubble stuff being deployed and needing to be fixed. Some examples of that I've had, like when they were messing around with and changing the way the group focus worked, they made like what we saw was a whole bunch of issues show up and it would say that group focus wasn't an option, but clearly it was when we chose it. That's how it got chosen in the first place. So let's just for fun do the search, the app search tool. And then click on, I don't know what you'd be doing, maybe action type or uses element. Go to uses element. And then element, type in group. And then try,
Here are
yeah.
things. I mean,
Yeah, but there were a bunch of them,
There
right?
were a lot of them.
You're trying to figure the right one, which might be a hint. If there's a lot of them, it might be a hint that you could do some naming of your elements. I know it's hard because there are a billion groups everywhere.
well, it's because I copied and pasted the same pop-up and just made little changes. So that's, why they have the same. I am going through and changing a lot of them as I go. I just haven't gotten all of them yet. All right, well, I'll do that and see if I don't think it's going to help actually, but I might have to just.
Well, and it's something that just like appeared. It's not like you were working on something and all of a sudden they appeared. It's probably you opened your app and then they were there. Like they weren't there before?
They were here yesterday, but I don't know what action preceded the error. You know how it is. You're working and all of a sudden you glance up, you're like, oh, errors. Who knows how long they were there.
Is this the
Gotcha.
new engine, Jay?
This is the responsive engine, which I am totally loving. Even if
Oh,
there's
it's awesome.
bugs, I'm still
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty amazing. I have to say, I haven't done nearly as much as say like Thomas has and Ben has, and even you, Jay, but I have to admit, like I'm watching as things are like flying on pages these days, and I'm just so impressed. So
Just things like lining up, like building a regular old group that looks something, anything like this, and being able to put the margins in instead of having to, left align and then
Mhm.
change all the sizes. Oh, I'm really, really excited about it.
that's awesome.
I'm gonna see, so here I can find them now.
I was
And
going to
it's
say,
not
I've got the
finding
same problem in the new editor as well, Jay.
Where you're having stuff mysteriously go, like what errors are you getting?
Exactly the same as you.
Really?
Yeah,
And-
I've got about 100 errors here that say group something is not a possible option. And it's like, well, I set it as that, so how is it now not a possible option?
Have you found any way to fix them in bulk, or are you just going through and redoing them one by one?
This one, well, I haven't been able to fix them at all because even when I click on them, it's not throwing an error.
It's not showing you what the
It's
problem
not
is.
showing me what the problem is.
Yeah, I mean, when it says it's not an option, it's not referring to the element itself. It's referring to some sort of workflow or a conditional that you were trying to set using that element as an option.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not going to find, you won't find the error on the element. But my guess is this is one of those things that you should just wait it out. Like you could just wait it out, or you could report it and Bubble can add you to the list of people who are waiting for an answer on it. But
Well, for this one, I'm just gonna, I mean, this is just.
but I wouldn't try to fix it because I don't think you actually have an error there. I think it's a bug.
I agree. I'm just gonna replace these with fresh groups and see if that does it, which I think it will. Because like I said, there's other workflows that are other pop-ups almost identical to this, and they're not having the problem.
Mhm.
All right. I don't know if anyone else is waiting, so I'll just let you know. My next question is going to be about privacy rules.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go back around. Ben, do you have anything else?
I do.
Let's see.
And I like my quick wins, but I'm not sure this will be.
That's okay. I also like puzzles. It's one of the reasons I love Bubble.
So I've got this, it's like basically a detailed profile page, yeah. And then on it, I've got this repeating group, which draws in the social apps that we talked about setting up. So the social profiles in a option set.
Sure.
But what I'm trying to figure out is how I make this profile linked to this. So when I, click on that, it's this profile's Instagram that opens in a new tab or whatever it is.
Got it. So we use the option set so that we could grab the picture of it, but we in the database we're setting up like a social link thing in your database. Is that right?
We haven't. So the option set is social.
Right. So that's so that you can pull the image in there for each of those, right? But
Correct.
then, so in your database, what you're going to have to do is for each time that when we set this up, I think it was in your other app, right? That we
Yep.
set it up. Okay.
Yep.
So I think what we had done is we had the place where they could add their social links, and they would click a button to add one, and then they would select which social network it was, and then they would put in their link, and then it would save that thing in the database and then save that thing, that social link in the database and also on their profile as a list of social links.
That's
Right?
right.
Yeah, and then you would, then that repeating group would be the repeating group of that user's profile's social links. And it would show the correct icon based on the type of social link that was selected when the social link was created. And then when you click on it, the instruction is to go to that social link thing in the database's social URL.
Okay, so don't set it up like this with Instagram, LinkedIn, set it up with a list of.
Exactly. Yep. So you would have one field on the brand that would be called social links of type social links. And then you'd have the social links type would have a social. Do you want me to just show you real quick?
Yeah, is that all right?
It's
Sorry.
easier. No, it's fine. I'm talking about it. I'm like, this would just be easier if I was pointing and clicking. So what you would do here is you would have, so we've got brand and then social media. So the brand would have, so social media has the link and the owner would be probably a brand instead of a user, right? And then the type here. And so then in your,
Would I have to set it up multiple times considering social links are across lots of different, they're not just brands, they're also talent, they're also events, they're also.
yeah, and then in which case you can create like you could have a brand of type brand here, you can have an owner of type user, and then whatever else might have a social link, you could link to it that way.
Okay.
Yep. And then what you would do here in this case is you'd have brand would have a social media links, and it would be of type social media from the database, not the option set. And it would be a list.
Okay.
And so then every time I save one of these, like when the person clicks the add button, they'll add social media. And then I think I have this set somewhere. Let's see here. Social media links. Nope, I don't remember. But we can do it real quick. How many times do I choose the wrong things in the menu? Okay, social media. So I'm gonna have a drop down and an input. And then what else? Nope, that's all I need. Okay, so drop down and an input. And the drop down is going to be dynamic choices. We're going to get an option set here. We'll do all and we'll show the display. And then this will be, yeah, just text, it's fine. It's for the URL. And then we'll just have a button. And the button will say save. Then we're going to do a repeating group. Here. And the repeating group will be of type social media. We'll do a search for social media where owner is current user. You could do brand as current, like page brand or whatever. And then in here, we'll do an image. That was the and it'll be current sales social medias link type and then icon. And then our workflow will be to open an external website, and it will be current social media's link.
And will that
Right,
open in a new tab, or will that open?
no, this won't open it in a new tab. If you want to open it in a new tab, we can use JavaScript here. And we can look up the JavaScript for script. open. I think it's this one. Where the URL, we would place it with double quotations, I think. And then end it with double quotations. And that's just using this plugin here. The toolbox plugin allows us to run a little bit of JavaScript. So, and then, yep, let me just run as a user. So for those of you who are watching the replay, the option sets, we had done some of this setup before. I created a social media option set. I love to put OS next to my option sets because it can get confusing when Bubble lists option sets next to data types. In this case, I created an attribute called image and then 3 options here, and then I modified, or it looks like I didn't modify the attribute. I could have. I thought I did that. That's weird. Let's see here. Oh, maybe it's just not showing it because it hates me. I don't know. Let's see. All right, so we'll go with Facebook and oh, I forgot to save it. There's also that part. So when this happens, we have to create a new thing in the database called social media. And the link will be the inputs value. The owner will be current user and the type will be the drop downs type. There you go.
So if they've got 10 social media profiles, that'll save 10 different lines to the database.
Yep, that is
That-
true.
If that gets big and bigger and bigger and bigger, like, you know, in the tens of thousands, will that slow it down?
Well, I mean, are you talking about one person having tens of thousands of
No,
social
no,
media?
no, no. I'm talking about just like, you know, if there's 1,000 users and they've all got 10, then
No, it's not a problem.
okay, cool.
Yep, and you can see it opened, even though you can't see the image for whatever reason. I don't know what kind of bug is going on. Bubble's having a bad day. They're
Yeah.
allowed. It's okay. But it opened this up in a new tab and went right to the group, right where the link I said for it to go.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Jay, or sorry, I think I skipped over Jordan. Jordan, did you find which one you wanted us to try?
Yeah, I did, but it is that one that's got the negative reviews on it. So
That's okay.
I put it in the chat there.
All right, perfect. this one. Okay.
Do you find that negative reviews are, kind of have to take them with a grain of salt because the only people that review them are negative? Like if you have something positive to say, you don't really rate it or review it.
That and when you're talking about connecting APIs, there's so much that the plugin creator, the plugin author can't control for. Like I saw Zero Code's response to one of those negative reviews was, the error that you're getting could mean that you don't have it set up properly. And it's like they were doing their best. I could see Levon was doing his best not to say, you just don't know what you're doing. But the truth of the matter is when you have to set up stuff in your like Google developer console, it's tricky. I'm still not an expert at it. And I've been trying, not that I'm working full time to become an expert at it, but I've gone in there and I've played with it several different times, and I do run into problems. It seems like almost every time that I do, I run into a bug that I have to debug, and there's not really someone there to help me debug it because the plugin author doesn't support that part of it, right? So they're expecting you to bring intact API keys that are already have the permissions and everything ready to go. Well, it's a little more complicated than just pushing a button and copying and pasting your key over. So yes, I would take the negative reviews with a grain of salt. The complaints about lack of documentation, I'm surprised to see that with Zero Code. I would assume that's when they released it in beta or whatever. They're pretty good about documentation, actually. But I mean, I'm not saying I'm a huge fan of Zero Code plugins. So I'm just saying that I've seen plugins with a lot less documentation. So, all right. So Google Drive API plugin for Bubble. That's very descriptive. Let's see. I don't know which one is which. $6 or 30 once. These are both. So it must be this one. Okay. Okay, so this is one requires OAuth, which means you're going to need an OAuth key from your Google Developers Console. App secret. So let's go check out the documentation. I wish they would let me. It seems so silly not to let you click from there, you know. Right. They weren't kidding. The reviews weren't kidding. I don't see the documentation for this one. Oh, here it is. I'm just blind. You must have a developer account with Google. Anybody can get a developer account with Google. It's not difficult. You just go to this link, or what I usually do is I just Google it. And I click the first link. And it'll open up that link that they were sending you to. If you've never done it before, they'll ask you to agree to some terms, like giving them your firstborn. You just do that because that's everybody does. And then and then you'll have to create a project, a first project. I already have several, you can see. So yeah, you get that stuff set up. And then once you can click new project if you want to do a new one. I usually name them after the apps that I'm in. For this one in particular, for my November sandbox, I know I did set up, you have to have your own domain name to get it to work, and that all has to be set up first. So in order to get the OAuth and everything to work with the November sandbox here, I had to actually put one of my, I have so many different domain names that I don't use. I shouldn't say that because I actually had to buy one recently because I needed one to use. But I have so many different domain names, and this one, I just recycled it for this purpose. So put in that, and then you go in through here for your OAuth consent screen, you get that set up. That's one of the most important ones, and you'll definitely need it for this plugin, because this plugin is for users to give you permission to view their files. So you'll go in here and make sure that it's an actual domain and not a bubble apps.io subdomain. And then add some test users for testing purposes. Yeah, just you can follow the instructions usually. I don't think, I'll just click edit so I can show you. So your app name, support, logo, application homepage, privacy and terms, because they're going to want all of that. And these have to be legitimate URLs. You can't just make something up here. You can apparently, I think, Thomas, you and I figured out you can use a different app's privacy and terms URL as long as it's a legitimate URL.
Yep.
And then authorized domains, and then developer contact, and save and continue. It takes you to another screen. Scopes express the permissions you request users to authorize. So you can, this is where you would set your scopes. In my case, the Google Sheets API that I was trying to set up with is the sensitive scope. But you can click here. In the case of Drive, you'll probably scroll down, or yeah, here, say Drive. So something like this. So Drive and drive.file, see, edit, and create and delete all of your Google Drive files. And then download. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, however you find them. I thought that was going to search and find them for me, but it didn't. No, this is just in my way. So you just look for all of the Drive ones that you want and add them and select them. Another way to look for the Drive files is if you go to your dashboard here, enable APIs and services. So you can search for them specifically. So like Drive. So like this is the one. So you can enable it on the project and then maybe it'll let you select it in the. Yeah, you see, I did, it had 30 before and then I enabled the Google Drive and it gave me 43. So now I expect to find something related to Drive. View. Yeah, so you would just select the ones that you want. Maybe you want all of them. I don't know. So see like this one in particular. So that added that to my sensitive scope for my OAuth screen, which means when you know how they show you your different Google profiles to select. And then once you select it, it tells you this app person is asking for these permissions. That's what you're updating here. So when the person clicks on the button to add their Google Drive, they'll be say, which account do you want to add? They'll click account and then it will show them a list of the permissions you're asking for, which is what these things are. And in those would be, yes, I want them to be able to see, edit, create, and delete all of my Google Drive files, right? And then from there, I save and continue. These are my test users, and that's fine. And then you have your credential screen, which is a little bit different. So you're going to go in here and you'll create credentials specifically for what you're trying to do. In this case, I might restrict my key and I say restrict key, and I only want it to do the Google Drive one, this one. The other thing that's important to keep in mind with all of this is you are going to need to put a card on file. So I'm actually going to need to delete all of this since I'm showing it on the screen. But you do need to keep a card on file in order for these things to work. Because a lot of times when I have clients come back and say, oh, something was working and then it stopped working, it's just because they need a card on file in order to go. My understanding is that it's really inexpensive to keep these things going. You need like thousands upon thousands of uses in order to rack up a bill. But yeah, you'll have to put a card on file. So once you have all of that done though, then you can copy this key, and I think this is your client ID and then your API key. I'm not sure of the use of the terms here. So like the API key and then the app secret, I don't really know what they mean here. So hopefully it's in the documentation, but that's that first part that they're talking about is like, you're going to have the Google developer account. Yeah, enable the Google Drive API in the console. You have to get all of that stuff set up first, and then you can start following along with the tutorial here. Did I go over that? What, Jordan, are you still here? Is anybody, was that helpful? I hope that was helpful and not telling you things that you already knew, but hopefully somebody finds it helpful. Okay, so I'm gonna go in my here. I'm just gonna delete this stuff.
Is this for pushing and pulling information from your drives to your app?
Yeah, so you would need the permissions to do both of those things, yes. Like you would have to set that up.
I wonder if you could set it, I mean, I'm sure you could. I wonder how you would set it up to give your customers the ability to connect their stuff in your app to their own drive.
Oh, to be able to save to their own drive?
Yeah,
So let's just go and look at the so see, edit, create, and delete. So it looks like this particular API scope allows you to see, edit, create, and delete all of your Google Drive files. What I don't see here is I don't see like how you can transfer to your Google Drive. And that is apparently a super challenging question.
you mean how to push content from the app to the drive?
Yeah, so let me think through it. Hang on. There's one direction that's pretty straightforward, and the other direction is a little harder. So, like taking something from your local storage or from your Google Drive, and then moving it into somewhere else. That's one thing. Taking a file from somewhere else and then moving it into the person's Google Drive is another question. So I actually have an app where at some point when they're ready to move forward, that's the challenge, that's the work, is figuring out how we're going to make a sort of seamless integration where their users can save not just to their local storage, but to their Google Drive or Dropbox or box.com.
Right.
Whichever they want.
Have you ever dealt with, you know how with Trello, for instance, you can email stuff into your Trello boards by using a special email address that they provide, the same way you would get an API key. You can get that email address. Do you have any idea how to do that with Bubble being the receiving entity?
Yeah, so that requires email parsing, if I'm not mistaken, and you can set up something like SendGrid to parse emails and then send them in via, I think, endpoint into your Bubble app. And then as long as you've got, like, you would know the from address, and as long as that's stored somewhere that you can grab it from the endpoint in your Bubble database, then you should be able to direct things to the correct user or place.
Okay, thanks.
All right. It's your turn again, Jay.
Okay, so I want to talk about I want to learn about privacy rules.
Okay.
So I'm working on a multi-tenant SaaS. So on the front end, it's not a problem because like all these repeating groups, one of the constraints is that it only shows the data from the current user's company. So that's restricted right up there. But I don't really have a great handle on privacy rules and I'm concerned about it. So for user, I've just got these straightforward ones. There's basically users and then marketers, curators. And they're pretty much the same. I haven't really done anything with this one. So, but then do I need to have them on like other stuff? If it's not available on the front end because there's no way to get to it, then do I need?
Yes.
More? Okay, what do I need?
You need, so I do kind of, and this is, I think I've mentioned it before and I'll just say it again. I didn't worry about privacy rules as I was learning Bubble because I was learning Bubble and it was like too much, right? And then I started to be curious about it. And then I started working for AirDev, and AirDev does a whole, like, has you do like a whole little, like, I don't know, it's courses and is overselling it. It's not quite a course, but it's sort of kind of like the guidelines, the tutorial, and how to think about them. And the first thing is that you should worry about them straight out of the gate and not wait. Now, if it's too late, you've already gone as far as you've gone or whatever, don't worry, it can be done. It's just a little trickier. The reason why you would want to start with privacy rules to begin with is because once you've built your app, you can have your app working, introduce privacy rules, and it'll stop working, right? Whereas if you introduce the privacy rules, debugging and modifying your privacy rules in order to get your app working is natural. This is why Bubble introduced that feature like a few months ago, where they started out with restrictive privacy rules every time you created a new data type.
Yeah.
Automatically. And then I'm guessing I haven't heard from anybody that like I haven't heard from anybody that this is what happened, but my guess is that they got flooded with people with like their help desk with questions, and it was all privacy rules related, and they rolled that back out. And what they did was they added it now into, like, if you just go into data types, where there's like make this, that checkbox there.
I did not notice that.
Yeah. So they were doing it automatically, and then they made it this checkbox thing, right? So I would say that you want to err on the side of data being protected by privacy rules rather than not, and then let up as needed in order to get your stuff working. So the way to do that is to start thinking in terms of, like, go back to the data types section again. You see how it says things will be visible to everyone when it's unchecked, and then you check
Right.
it and say things will only be seen by their creators. So that's also how I think about it. I think about basically 3 different rules out of the gate. There's the admin rule. I always let admins see everything, right? Then there's the creator rule. If the person created the information, then they should be able to see it. And then there's the everyone else rule, which I will split into different roles if necessary. So when you look in my apps, generally under privacy rules, you'll see an admin and then owner and then everyone else. And sometimes everyone else will be split into a couple different roles. Like an example would be, you have a curator and you have an owner of information, right? So you'd have the admin rule where current user's role is admin and current user is logged in, then they can see everything. The next one would be current or owner of this thing. This thing's owner is current user and current user is logged in, and then they can see and do everything. So no, I would say this company instead. I'd start over. Say this company's, instead of is, I would say creator. You don't have an owner field. Yeah.
Now I've got an admin and I've got the creator, and then there's everybody else. Everyone else is a role, and those will be more complicated later. Like there's an editor, but I haven't gotten that far yet.
Right. So usually you would say, like after the admin section, you would say the data types creator or owner, or however, like whichever field would indicate that the person like should have admin privileges over it. Right. So in this case, go back to where it says creator. So for company right now, all I see is a company's name, creator, and that's it.
Right,
So
because the admin's on the user data type.
Right. So this company's well, that's the thing though, is this is one of the reasons why we do a lot of redundancy and cross-referencing in the Bubble database, is to allow for very careful privacy rules. That's one
Right.
of the reasons, right? So you might say this company's owner and then have an owner field, or this company's team members contains current user and current user is logged in, is how you might phrase that. And then from there, does that make sense first, Jay?
It sounds like so the redundancy would have to be on all data types.
Like almost all of my data types have an owner field. And it's specifically so I can refer, like, it's for two reasons, or maybe more, but two are coming to mind at the moment. The first reason is because if I, as the admin, have to do any work on the behalf of the user, I don't want me to be like, the creator would be me and not the other person. So I refer to the owner instead, so I can be more deliberate about who things belong to. Right? It also makes sense for testing purposes. It just makes it's a clear way of saying to the system who I want to be referred to from this thing in the database. The other is because of this situation. When I'm trying to give permissions, who can see this, I can refer easily to this company's owner is current user, and then I would also put in current user is logged in. So, yeah, does that make sense, or are you still kind of confused?
No, it makes a ton of sense, and it also helps with helping plan out my whole app. Like later soon, there's going to be this when I actually have some content in here where. Okay, so this is a way to sort, like this. These are little chunks of content. They're divided into types, like that's background, panes, features, solutions, etc. So there's all these different types. And each one of them, these collections, I have to figure out who do I want to be able to see it. All curators, yes. But maybe a curator wants to see only the stuff that they've launched their own requests for. So maybe so I need to figure out how this should be displayed and to who. Like I've been thinking about the how, but now I need to get to the who. And that conversation about the privacy rules really throws that into prominence.
Right. Well, so that brings up a good point. There's some things that the user would have permissions by privacy rules that you wouldn't, like, you would filter out instead, right? So they could potentially have permission to do this if they changed their settings, but they selected that they only wanted to see these things. So you put like a filter on based on their settings.
Yeah.
And the main concern with privacy rules, the reason that we think about it is if you inspect a website and you open up like Google Developers Console or whatever, and you know what you're doing, you can send different queries and things into the database. And if you don't have a privacy rule preventing the particular user from getting at that information in your database, it will return. And your privacy rules are the things that you will never allow the bubble database to return in a query unless a specific user is logged in and has that and like has those permissions. So it can help speed things up. Having appropriate permissions can help speed things up in your app, because the database just won't be returning as much information. And then it secures the data. It makes it so that people can't get at it. Bad actors specifically.
So if you have like view all fields, I mean, this just means it'll show up in the display on the front end. But what about like if you don't have a search for it, like, does this mean find it in searches on the site or Google or what?
No, so this means find in searches when you do a search for in your app.
Like a repeating.
Like
group
if you
search.
sent a query to the bubble database, right?
Ah,
So that's what a do a search for is. A do a search for action that you might do in your design tab or in your workflows tab is sending a query to Bubble's database, and it's going to constrain it first by the privacy rules. It's not going to return anything that you don't have private like permission to see. And then it will constrain it by the constraints that you place on the search, and then it will constrain it further, but client side when you use filters. Yeah. So, and on your user, for instance, just because you happen to already have some privacy rules there. So user details, current users logged in and current users role contains curator. So you were giving your curators on your app nearly absolute domain over everything in your app. My guess is like, and maybe that's what you want, but my guess is you want to give them domain over like companies and content and experts and industries, but not over your other users. Like you wouldn't want to ever expose a user's email address to a curator.
yeah, they're gonna see them anyway. This is for internal, like customer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so that's fine. Just making sure that like I probably like if curator means admin, like app admin, then that's one thing. But if you're talking about other people who sign up as curators on your site or something like that, then you have to be really careful because you're
Yeah.
letting them see. So yeah, so you can take it so that they cannot view all fields, they can just find in searches, but then that seems kind of like, I don't know, almost silly.
I don't see anything here that they shouldn't, and this is all the regular information, just who's in the company and what their roles are.
Yeah.
Really nothing else.
Generally, I separate like user stuff. I mean, if you're using curator again as kind of like the way that I use app admin, then that's fine. But for me, generally, the admin and the user themselves are the only ones who can see their user information. Anything that I want to expose to anyone else in the app, I usually send over into a user, like into a profile or something. And I separate the data to keep it really clean. So.
Okay. So basically I need to be adding a field in these and saying what they are so I can constrain them. It's none of them of anything. Okay. I not, I because there's data flying in and out of the app, this is one of the ones that uses transcriptions and such. So the only users of this app who actually sit in front of the keyboard will be the curators, which is basically just a nicer way or fancier way, I guess, to say marketing specialist. And then later there'll be editors and they won't necessarily be internal. So they're going to need more constricted roles, but even they aren't going to be having access to hardly any of the site because the majority of it is, this is just the administrative stuff. But so to like add a platform, and that's a pretty big, you can't just decide.
Yeah, but you're not, so when we're talking about privacy rules, we're not talking about your user interface, right? We're talking about if somebody knows what they're doing, being able to like hack your app to get information out of it because you haven't protected that data. So I'm not talking about what you are and aren't allowing. Like if you have an editor and you're like, oh, but they'll only be able to see what I show them on this page. It's like, that's if they don't know how to do other things and aren't a bad actor. And very few people will know how. I don't know how, but you have to account for the people who do.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
So.
All right, I will be going through and adding all those in. This is still early stages, so I wanted to make sure, that things like, all the things that didn't go great with Garden Brain and the previous app, messy stuff. I want to keep,
Right.
you always want to keep getting better. So I'm trying to do a lot more thinking out of the data types and the privacy rules before there's much in here. I mean, so far it's just a page that you've seen and this. It's a
That's
great
good.
time to start trying to, sharpen it up.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up this episode of Office Hours and move into our members only after hours now. If you are watching and you'd like to be part of the members only after hours, means you have to be a member. Please go sign up at pronocoders.com and you can come into the Zooms, ask your questions, and be part of this group. We'd love to have you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll be back tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. for Office Hours episode number 161. And then again, special announcement on Wednesday evening, we'll be back at Pacific time, 6 p.m. as well. And Justin will have a special episode on the new responsive editor making a chat feature. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.